All right. June 8th, 2026. New York morning session, silver bullet, pre-market analysis. That's what I'll be dealing with. And yeah, the daily levels will stay as they are. Since the previous session, nothing to change there. The main thing that has my interest is the opening range gap that we just formed between this closing price here and the opening price here. That's a clear premium opening range gap for ES. And this is also something that I want to add and measure for precision based elements here. All right. Because it's quite sizable, that's premium opening range gap of 89 handles on ES. That's a very, very large opening range gap for ES. I will add the quadrants here. So 25 and 75. Middle line take off. All right, so these are the quadrants. Quadrants level here, and the RTH perspective on ES. Let me take a look on the 50-minute first. We have that old low sell-side liquidity. That's definitely a reasonable point of interest, but keep in mind this is a day after a large range day. Yesterday, there is this gap here that we just traded into there already. Small little fair value gap inside of the daily inefficiency, and this gap up on Friday into Tuesday. We moved down through it, yes, but it was mostly one-sided on the downside. So there is still some inefficient price action on the upside, or lacking some upside inside of it. All right, so on the near-term basis, this buy-side liquidity here stands. I'll label it as obvious, and I would connect it to the daily volume imbalance here also. So that's like where the buy side resides. This high also is kind of relative equal to that. So we'll see what we get. Large range day to the downside yesterday. Today, premium opening range gap at the start, and price dropped lower initially, but couldn't even reach the upper quadrant as it is yet. So that's very interesting. And the first presented fair value gap is residing right here at 933. All right, 933. All right, so internet issues. I got disconnected, but reconnect it quickly. Hopefully it will be working well. Alright, so first printed file gap, ASEBI, we traded into it here once, repelled price a little bit lower, now trading into it or to it again. Here, initial resistance is being shown. So let's see what we'll get. So usually when we have a premium opening range gap, we think consecutive encroachment as the initial draw. And that's like a fair expectation, sure. But with such a large opening range gap like this, I would say the 50% is right away less likely. So I'll put it on the back burner here. And the fact that it couldn't even reach the upper quadrant yet is also a little bit suspect and or suggesting me that the buy sell liquidity here and the daily volume balance might be more of a point of interest for the price. Yeah, that's based on the RTH perspective. Obviously, we also do have a breaker in here, bullish breaker on the RTH perspective. That's a bullish breaker. All right, something like that. Let's check the ETH now. And how does it look? We do have relative equal highs here. Link to the buy side. This first printed fair value gap being worked initially. We have a busy at 710 that was tapped right into politely. Lots of price action since London. It was consolidated here. And yeah, this is how it looks like so far, at least. So usually the tendency or the idea is after large that we might see at least an attempt to reach higher. Let's see. I'm not trying to sell a very hardline bias, but I'm expecting, or rather I'm not expecting this morning session to be very flawless and easy. So that's also what I'm keeping in mind. Well, all right, so we booked the upper quadrant here. Quick check on what the Nasdaq is doing, but Nasdaq is doing very similarly here. Yeah, not much difference. Maybe it had even cleaner run to the upside, but yeah, ES is completely reasonable with the idea that I'm trying to outline, I suppose. So yeah, 30 seconds to go still, and be heading into the morning session silver bullet after a large range day yesterday, meaning on Friday. All right. So SEBI, I'm annotating that SEBI because that's the last one that takes the sell side, or prior this sell side being taken out. Important SEBI, high probability inversion potentially, and we are crossing below the upper quadrant of that opening range gap for today. Buy side in here, pretty damn smooth, not gonna lie. Those highs relatively equal. Yeah, that looks pretty suspect. So far, I'm thinking they're taking price lower to trick people to short and chase lower to eventually take it out, take it all the way higher. So that's what I'm highly favoring as an outcome or as an idea to potentially navigate. Whether and how it will develop, let's see, let's observe. Might be an interesting session in here. All right, so quickly coming back above the upper quadrant, I'm watching this 957 CB and I'm thinking about it. If we could go on a closing basis above it, that could become a bullish inversion for value gap. That could send us higher. Same goes for the first presented for value gap here. It initially offered lower prices here. Yes, it took sell side. It completely repriced into this busy and upper quadrant. But now if we would start to go above it, hang above it, then I would be expecting some ideas to send it from here to the buy side liquidity right here and maybe some above. At least these are kind of like the ideas that I have in mind right now. So yeah, trading above the consecutive encroachment of that CB, we already closed above it too on the first candle. So that also doesn't really lend very well for anticipating further weakness, I suppose. And therefore we'll see what we get. We do have a high, low, higher high. So this candle in here, that's a bearish breaker that we are also trading up into. So I'm watching that. And let's see, because yeah, there is always a danger that we will spend some time inside of the CB because it was a large range day yesterday, and usually there is this tendency to see that happening or occurring. So we'll see what we get. A small little busy for value gap right here. Let me annotate it too for completeness sake. Price just tapped into it and responded quickly higher. But yeah, I want to see how we can manage to leave this 957 CB first and then respect the upper half. That would be very, very strong indication that we are likely going to see a run on the buy side. But yeah, let's see. Still kind of early to tell on a day like today. So keeping the powder dry, I would say. And yep. So the consecutive encroachment of this opening range gap could be still theoretically or technically in play. I'm not necessarily willing to disregard that at this particular moment. I think we could. I mean, it's still on the table, I would say. But because the gap was so large, because it already showed initial unwillingness to trade to the upper quadrant, I'm suspecting that it's maybe less likely to see that consecutive encroachment at all. So we'll see. All right, so far we traded up into that CB and we are moving away of that. We close below it. So if that's the case, I want to see this low being taken out here, right? If we traded up into this CB, now we are leaving it fairly quickly. Couldn't trade to the high. this low should be attacked next. So let's see if that will be the case. The small little fair value gap was closed right away. So that's also like an information that it's not necessarily very bullish right now. All right, but the bodies stayed inside of it. The body stay inside of it, and we are also trading to the upper quadrant of that opening range gap. So yeah, going back into the CB after we already left it like this, that's definitely not bearish in my mind, or not as bearish in my mind. So yeah, definitely the buy side is more of a draw for me at this point. A nice large up candle up into the upper half of the CB, maybe suggesting that this could become an inversion for Y gap. That's what I would assume or expect, at least. So let's see if we can close above it and then retrade back in the upper half and use it to send price higher. Let's see if that can be done by any means. Nasdaq has also this clean buy side liquidity for sure. So definitely that's something to look for. Maybe not at this moment particularly still, but overall that's kind of what I'm looking for. So well. All right, so now as we went in the upper half of the CB, and if I'm expecting higher price, if I'm expecting this buy set here and here and here to be potentially tagged, I want to see price stay in the upper half and have real issues to go inside of the lower half, right? So let's see if it will show the signature of that actually being in place. Right, so far we are diving down into the lower half, but we do have another busy bullish for value gap here, and we also have that lower bullish value gap that we already worked off here from the low. All right, so we repriced with a week into this fair value gap and high of this lower one, and the body stayed inside the upper half. So that's already a very good signature for higher prices. That's a very good signature for higher prices. And now, yeah, I'm looking technically for two main things. I mean, I have two main things in my mind. Either we use this 957 CB as a bullish inversion for value gap. So we go above it, we close above it, and then use the upper half to send price higher. And or we do the same thing, but with the first presented fair value gap here. So we go above it here, touch to the upper half, and then send for the buy set here. So So yeah, that's kind of like what I'm thinking in terms of the draw liquidity. But yeah, let's see. We made a high, higher high, and a higher high. So 3 times higher high into this SIBI here. And this breaker. But so far, every time it dips into the lower half of this, it's being quickly taken up into the upper half and spends time here. So I generally like to see that if I'm more bullish than bearish, right? But yeah, at the same time, we are spending quite some time inside of this SIBI, right? So that's the other side of this coin. We are spending a little bit time inside the SIBI, which is not a low resistance liquidity run signature. That's the high resistance liquidity run signature by definition. So yeah, if that's the case, it's kind of suggesting me that we aren't necessarily in a rush at this moment. Plus, turtle soups might be the ideal type of entry or entries, or entries after turtle soups might be ideal. So let's see, we spent some time in the upper half and now we are leaving, trading to the low of that SIBI, but also to that lower bullish fair value gap. Quick initial rejection. Let's see how we can close on this one. All right, we tapped into that low and the lower fair value gap, and we quickly repelled higher, closing near the consecutive encroachment. So all of this still suggests me that higher prices are more likely at this time or for this session. The problem is how much time you're spending here inside the SIBI. That's an issue that we need to resolve. Does 5-minute chart bring any specific clarity to it? We are trading into this 5-minute BIS, yes. It's being respected at the low, yes. But that's not necessarily enough for me to engage it. Same on 15-minute. That's not necessarily enough. So I'm waiting. I'm just patiently waiting for some cleaner signatures here. But yeah, already expecting that this morning session is likely to be high resistance, difficult from the start. Why? Because we had a large range day yesterday. So yeah, let's see. So far we made a low here after the 930 open. This low was run out. Now we made a low here. Looks like we are heading to run that low out too. So clearly accumulating or potentially accumulating sell side liquidity while leaving the buy side intact. All right, so we close below this BC. Therefore, now it could act as a potential bearish inversion for value gap. And I'm watching this low in here at 10 a.m. because that's where majority of the sell side liquidity still resides. And I'm kind of like eyeballing the 50% between the upper quadrant and the consecutive encroachment, which lines very close to that breaker. So that's like the octane of this quadrant, and that's like the next somewhat important or likely draw on the downside, I assume, with the current price action. Nasdaq a little bit higher, but potentially fishing for the similar low. Let's see if we can get that. It really looks like they are selling the idea that it's gonna continue with another large range to the downside, but really just rip it higher at some point. That's how it feels to me. At 10:18 a.m. New York time. All right, so the bearish inversion for value gap doesn't necessarily hold the water here, and we are back into that CB from 957, but we already taken the short-term low. I think I would rather prefer to see price make this lower low here, or maybe offer some measure of SMT on the lows. I suppose this by itself is a measure of SMT because Nasdaq is not necessarily matching those lows here, so that might be an early sign, but yeah, that's pretty subtle here. So I would require a little bit more, I assume, on a day like today. Also remember, it's a Monday without any news, and we have CPI on Wednesday. So we have everything basically against a very clean price action on Monday, Tuesday. Therefore, yeah, difficulties are being expected, and potentially cleaner price action after Wednesday, Thursday. I mean Wednesday after CPI, after PPI. And so yeah. But yeah, also we are all the time hanging around this upper quadrant here of that opening range gap for today. Not really being able to sustain any price action below it. This bearish inversion for value gap, upper half went above it, and then it respected the consecutive encroachment here very well, but suggesting also higher prices. So we have very obvious buy side liquidity above this 1009, then 954, and then the 922 with 931. So lots of buy side liquidity up there. But yeah, if it's really going to perform a run higher, then I would like to see price have no issue trading above this 957 CB first, and then starting to perform some stronger on the upside. So far, we are still hanging inside of this inversion fair value gap. Here, the body is respecting that. We wicked outside of it to the consecutive encroachment of the CB, but then closed inside of that inversion fair value gap. So I'm watching still whether we can see a potential lower low for the day so far. So far, Nasdaq is not matching the lower low on ES, but that's still very subtle. SMT that, yeah, it's there. It's potentially there because it could be cancelled out, but yeah. All right. I mean, so far I'm met with rather high resistance liquidity run conditions. Much time is being spent inside of inefficiencies and a lot of overlapping price action, very fuzzy price delivery. All the candles are overlapping, and that's all basically saying price isn't necessarily in a rush to deliver at this moment particularly. So let's see, let's wait, and yeah, the session was expected to be difficult, and so far I guess it's reasonably difficult, even though I think I don't know, we will see whether I was correct or not. I think higher or some measure higher is more likely than lower. My near-term draw is higher for this session particularly, and that seems pretty obvious to me. But how to engage it with low risk and reasonable position that makes sense, that the stop loss makes sense and stuff, that's a little bit tricky, I suppose, at this moment for myself here. So I'm trying to figure this out. And yeah, so all right, so we are back inside of the upper half of the CB. Let's see if we can trade outside of it and turn it into a potential bullish inversion for value gap. This lower bearish inversion for value gap completely failed its role. So it was bullish here, the price went below it. It failed to offer bearish. It actually offered some bullishness. So that's interesting. And if that's the case, we have some SMT on the lows. If we can leave above this CB, then I would assume or expect it should act as a bullish inversion for value gap to send price higher, but maybe not necessarily on the first pass higher. So if it does trade above it and close above it, like very soon, the first initial run down into it, I would probably prefer to stay on the side and let it prove itself, because this price action already is a little bit problematic. It did engineer theoretical low sell liquidity, so this is always a potential. Even though I favor higher, I think they are not going to come back for it. because how they are playing it so far. But yeah, let's see. Looks like we might get a close above the CB, but not quite. It basically close at the high, so that's not necessarily meeting the criteria that I'm looking for. It needs to close up out above it, outside of it. Then I consider this a bullish inversion for value gap. So yeah, minor buy sell liquidity here. That's the easiest one on the upside. Then here, pretty obvious too. But I'm waiting for that close above the CB, and then I will be turning this into inversion, and then I would expect this upper half to be really nicely respected and send price higher. That's my thought process. Okay, so we close above it, so now as we come back, it should act as bullish inversion for value gap and send price higher. All right, Nasdaq is already on the verge to just take off, looks like. Oh well, I yes, here. Right, let me see. Squeezing an entry around here. Okay, so that would take the max leverage. On day like this, not the best idea. So probably something like this. The draw up here. Something like this. But again, we trade above it, as I said, but the first trade into it, I prefer to give it like a little bit of chance to prove itself. Just in case it would, want to mess around and just go for the stops in here. Because it technically could, right? So that's like a little bit, extra cautiousness, I would say. But yeah, it might be risking a potential entry here. So yeah, the first candle trade into it, close above it. Should be alright. So let's see if it can tap me in on another pass or not. All right, so it did. I am a little bit worried that because of these shenanigans, it might play a little bit dirty and take us below it, right? Especially as we have those equal lows. But I'm also assuming that both Nasdaq and ES have those very, very obvious buy side, and the sell side was being really attacked for the majority of the time, meaning that it should quickly reach up there. Let's see. So far, the body is showing perfect respect to the high of this inversion, and I like that a lot. And the next stop would be trading above this first presentation. So that would be like the next graduate objective on the upside. If we can go above it, that's probably very good. If we can't, that's probably not as good. But yeah, I assume I'm allowing for a little bit of wiggle room. So if it wants to do some wiggle waggle and maybe even trade to the low of it, my stop loss permits that, but preferably it shouldn't do that. So let's see, SMT on the lows, a very discreet one, but still there. Closed above this, inversion, fair value gap, buy side, and yeah, that's kind of like the idea. So now from the entry plus minus here to the draw plus minus here, the break even price would be there, more or less. All right, so this is my break-even price. So if we can reach up into there, I'm basically setting this position to break even, and then it should have easy time attacking the limit if it's good. I really like how the bodies are respecting the high of this inversion for value gap. That's a very good signature. That's a very good signature. And yeah, I mean, I think that unless some weird manual intervention comes in play, this is just a pretty simple idea. So yeah, we'll see. $10.30 or entering around $10.30. Fair enough. So yeah, now the only thing that would worry me a little bit about this is the time. And meaning, or what do I mean by the time is the fact that how much time we spend doing this. Because by my definition, we already did all that's necessary to send the price higher, right? So if that will not be happening here, then I might be missing something underlyingly here, right? Then it's probably suspect. But as long as we respect the high with the bodies like this, I'm really counting the candles to see like a large up candle to the upside, smashing through this high here. That's what I'm imagining right now. Well, so we're starting to run away from here. That's good. But now as we approach this short-term high, I really would like to see like a large range candle to the upside with large body and closing strong. That's what I would like to see. We did trade it to the low of this first presented fair value gap. So that's also like a thing where preferably we smash right on through it. If we can smash right on through it, then the odds are really, really in my favor here. So let's see if we can do that. Already moved almost 10 handles from the entry price, so that's pretty nice with almost zero drawdown. The minor buy side, that's too obvious. That's being approached right now, that 955 high inside of the first printed fair value gap. Let's see if we can spike nicely above it. Right, initial rejection here, leaving relative equal highs like this, that still invites a potential follow through. So yeah, let's see. As long as we are not necessarily entering this inversion again, I'm continuously looking for advancement higher. Yeah, at this point we do have this SIB here that we traded above. So now this is also like a inversion for value gap, bullish inversion for value gap that should repel price higher, and so far that's where we traded into. So if that's the case, we preferably see a measure of reaction to the upside. We do have those clean highs now that they are engineering or trying to sell this as a measure of resistance that it should give way, I believe. But again, this particular session, morning session after a large range day, that's when it can get squirrely sometimes. So yeah, I like this reaction here, and now quick run above those equal highs would be wanted. Something like this makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm watching the bodies. There is some weird speed that was involved in here, so hopefully they are I'm in line with what they are planning on doing. I am feeling a little bit uncomfortable at this moment that there is some measure of manual intervention coming. I have that gut feeling. Let's see if price can prove me, or let's see if price can prove that that's not necessarily in the case. But yeah, any failure in here really doesn't land well with the idea. And this is what I was talking about. I mean, this is what I was thinking about when it comes to that manual intervention. Let's see if they are just poking this one more time below the short-term low to send it above. They definitely have all the buy side here to consume. Yeah, closing outside of this, that's not the signature that I would like to see. Yeah, I mean, at this moment I'm a little bit cooked, I believe. I'm on the grace of the fill. So whatever or however he wants to do with the price right now, he can. And yeah, that's not a position that I would like to be in at this moment, I feel like. Well, diving into this lower inversion for value gap, but yeah, on a heels of potential manual intervention here, they left buy side liquidity here very smooth. So diving into it here should be met with ultra quick rejection higher. Otherwise, he may, I mean, they may want to take it some lower or get just a little bit messier with the price action here, and the probabilities gonna shift against me very strongly. I mean, they already are shifting quite unpleasantly, not in my favor. But yeah, the body's respecting and not closing below consecutive encroachment. That's a good sign. With this rally down here, we are going to be approaching the macro. I mean, I'm assuming that this was like a manipulation here to the downside before a larger run higher, sticking to the draw and the bias that I outlined initially. And if that's the case, they should be reaping this crazy higher very soon. And that was the manipulation that hopefully didn't took me out, right? Because my stop loss was still lower. So if they are done, and I hope they are done manipulating, it should rip up higher. And why do I think so? Because they trade to the consecutive encroachment, but they didn't close at it. They kept it higher. So it's they kind of like showed that it's in a rush to go higher. And that was like a manipulation. Too smooth buy side left. I like how quickly we are trading higher. So now it should really rip for the draw on liquidity and be really fast about it too. I really hope we can reach the break-even criterion here so I can remove the risk of this position. But I assume the worst already is behind me. The manipulation was here, done, and now it's ripping higher. The buy side is just too obvious. All right, I like how we stretch higher here. Approaching the break-even price. All right, so we technically there. There we go, we touched. So I'm setting the break-even here. Confirm, and now this position is risk-free. And I have the view at a potential take profit still being fairly reasonable. So let's see now. Relax. Oof, that was close, Phil, but not today. I mean, you can still get me, but not with a loss, at least. So yeah, we trade above this first presentation here, and now we are trading down into it, right? So preferably, it really offers a measure of support and repels price higher towards this relative equal highs here. That's like the most reasonable bit of the business here. We have several levels on the downside that should keep price higher before reaching my break even. We already returned to this inversion fair value gap here, so there should be no reason to do it again unless manual intervention. So yeah, I have that free look on this potential take profit still reasonable, but on a day like today, always unknown. So let's see. So yeah, I mean, I was thinking in my head that if there was any time that I should be getting out ahead of the target and just be content with just a little bit that I could get, I believe on a day like today, on a session like today, above those relative equal highs, that would be a very reasonable area for a partial or closure even. There wouldn't be necessarily nothing wrong about it. But yeah, using the model or sticking to the model that I'm using here allows me to set the break even after 75% of my take profit was reached. And now I have really a free look anyway, so that's nonetheless a very good position to be in, even if it would came back and stop me out on even. That would be far better than taking a loss, nonetheless. So yeah, also if it's good, it should really run for that take profit after it went 75% of that of the target, then it really should hit it. Generally, if it's good. In some cases, obviously, it won't. But yeah, ever since I adopted this rule, there was not such a time that after I moved my stop loss to break even that it came back and stopped me on even. It always delivered. But yeah, I'm prepared for that time when it does come back against me and you know stops me out. But that statistically it should be less often. But yeah, that's just like a safety mechanism to navigate. So yeah, definitely in a striking distance at this moment. Definitely in a striking distance. So anytime soon, I would expect the price to just smirk into that buy side, into that draw. And yeah, trusting that it will do so. I am a little bit uncomfortable holding for defenses on a day like today, meaning after a large range day. But yeah, another win. I did 2 wins today. Well, Sonia, you are rolling. Nice. Very glad to hear that. Yeah, Simon, that's just a matter of experience, I guess, and being like completely acceptable to the outcome, regardless of the outcome, right? Because yeah, obviously, I'm hoping for the best, but also I need to kind of like deal with the uncertainty at all time. So that's not that easy, right? And everyone who tried to trade very, very efficiently, definitely faced some issues with it. Again, all-time high. I don't know. I will say I don't know. I wouldn't go as far, but who knows, right? Maybe. No, Sonia, it's all you, all you. Well, hanging around near this buy side liquidity here. Now trading to this little fair value gap at 1051 and the first presentation. So I really would like to see a push out of that to the upside. Otherwise, it becomes a little bit squirrely, but let's see if we can get that. And yeah, the Nasdaq already took out the buy side, so that's a little bit of the issue that I was worrying about also. So because the Nasdaq did already took out the buy side that I was looking for ES to do so, but it's fairly weaker, I'm a little bit more concerned about it. I still would like to see ES to catch up and take out the buy side. That's pretty still reasonable expectation. But the problem is that it might either take more time to do so and or a deeper retracement. Both cases I'm not necessarily comfortable with. So yeah, let's hope for the best, and let's hope it will be at least quick. So if it wants to go deep, then do it quick at least, and don't need me spend like an hour or more hanging inside of this range here. So let's see, striking distance nonetheless, and yep. All right, stretching. I like that stretch, and it's really close to the objective. It's very close. It's probably like around 10% of the whole trade left in the range. So let's see if we can get it. Two minutes until 11. So it would be really beautiful to get out around that time, and don't sit too long in front of the charts today. We'll see. Target in close proximity, definitely in striking distance. One more handle to go. And I got it. Well, nice. So that was a 24 handle run with little drawdown. I survived a manipulation here, but nonetheless it delivered accordingly to the drawn liquidity and the initial idea. So that's really sweet. Let's update the counter. So 8 wins, 10 losses at this moment, and we have the full drawdown back. So I will show you the stats for the account, the same account all the time. This is the trade for today, and this is the account balance. So 51 279.75. So that's the current state of the action. And my friends and neighbors, I'm back to the full risk for leverage of $500 for a risk per trade, meaning that yeah, I'm getting closer, but yeah, I mean we'll see. But I'm thinking about like managing my expectations accordingly to the calendar too, meaning that if I have a Monday without news and Tuesday without news ahead of CPI, then I don't necessarily want to go max risk on those days by definition, but yeah, I guess I will also see, bye money glitch, thanks, how price will be doing tomorrow. But yeah, nonetheless, nice one here, and it delivered. So GG. Tomorrow London open session, I'll be back with more. So see you then. Bye. Nice one. I mean, have a nice one. Damn it. Ciao.